All right. I guess we're doing a live podcast. My name's Tim.
Hey.
I live in Tacoma, Washington. I do a podcast called PODULAR MODCAST, and we've got Ross from Moffenzeef, and then we got Jay from Schlappi, then we got Brandon from Mordax,
Hello.
and then Abraham from Owl Synthesis.
AI synthesis.
Oh, it's AI? Oh, I thought it was Owl
Monster.
Synthesis. Well, it's always this. I mean, it feels weird doing this in this setting, especially since I'm not prepared at all. Had a wild night. We came down on Friday. It's been fun. My goal of the trip was to kind of wrap my head around and get a bit of a mental map of Portland, and I filled in some blank spaces early this morning, so that was pretty good. How are you enjoying the event so far in the weekend?
I think this is pretty fun.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
You guys having a good time?
Yeah.
It's been busy already.
Yeah?
For sure.
I'm having a positive experience.
You're having a positive. Yeah. Trade shows I know are everyone's favorite, like all the manufacturers' favorite things to do. So
100%.
I love to talk to the public.
I'm honestly a little surprised Brandon showed up today. Yeah.
Early.
Yeah, it's amazing.
By your standards, early for sure.
I've heard this same joke from like 6 different people throughout the day. Like everybody's like, Brandon's gonna show up on Monday.
Well, there's like always a theme with these things because it's like, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but I always get like 3 hours of sleep before a trade show because
It's the only way.
Yeah, it's like everybody the night before, even if they're not at the same bar, just doesn't prepare themselves at all, and they get wasted, and then you show up and.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the trade show is to meet people you should be drinking with regularly anyway, but you get the excuse to do it.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I think we got a good helping of that last night at the Inversion show. That was a fun show.
And you got to go on an adventure?
I got to go on an adventure afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about
Till
that?
5 a.m. was it?
I kind of want to, but at the same time, he's not here to defend himself, so I don't think it's fair.
Should be a guest on the.
Yeah. I'll bleep out the name. But yeah, one of our friends got lost last night, and we had to track him down. And the sun was up when we found him. But like I said, I filled in a lot of blanks on my Portland map. It was a little bit more of an area of Portland that I hadn't anticipated.
Does your car still have all of its parts on it?
It does. Yeah. Well, we
You didn't have a
stayed in
very
it.
Portland experience then.
Well, I mean, it is outside right now,
Yeah,
so
right.
I can't guarantee
The day is
that-
young.
Yeah, I can't confirm that. I mean, it's got to be pretty cool to have a trade show in your hometown. That's got to feel take
it's
a lot of the
been a
stress
while.
away.
It's easier.
Yeah, much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Abe, I'm going to use an old industry term. Can you really just eat that mic? You're a little quiet.
Okay.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I'm gonna stay quiet.
Or just use that barrel chest of yours to really, what's
Okay,
the
Tim.
word? What's the word? I was looking
Project.
for? That's the one. Thanks, Ross.
I was a musical theater kid.
Oh,
so
no,
I don't know.
nice.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about that then.
Yeah,
Are we doing a duet?
So I'm going to now make the next 45 minutes about my childhood trauma. And I'm going to start at Guys and Dolls at summer camp. 1990.
Which one were you?
I was, which production of Guys and Dolls are we talking about, Jay? Because we've been through a few iterations of this one. But so it started, I wouldn't say it was a choice per se. It was more of a destiny, as Brandon will tell you. It was written in the clouds. But I'll just give you the greatest hits here. So I think the peak of it was 7th grade when I starred in Crazy for You, which was a Gershwin.
Okay.
And that one entailed me learning how to tap dance. Ooh. So I know how to tap dance, unfortunately, against my will. And it was Bobby.
Me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you want me to
right.
You want me to time step with Doc Martens on?
I am actually filming.
Wow,
this,
okay,
so
here we
yeah.
go.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, wow.
It's a step, heel back, flap, step, heel back. And you do it in the whole, so it's like. So as you can tell, I've been doing this.
You still got
You
tap
still got
shoes?
it. Yeah. Nice. Very nice.
So it's like the whole thing is that it's supposed to sound like da 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 ba da ba da da. That's the
And
time
then you
step.
had to sing plot points while you were doing it?
Yeah, so I had to learn. It was like allegedly like one of the hardest leads to learn because you have to memorize all this shit and learn all these Gershwin tunes and tap dance. So I was like 13, and like a hormonal rage, and also like eating mushrooms every weekend. And my Jewish mother was like, "Oh, you're so talented.
She
Do
sounds
the
like that. I've met her.
musical." Yeah, Jay has met Yetta. Yeah, wow. Yeah, you met
We
her.
hung out at Lovecraft.
Well, hanging out is like a very loose kind of.
No, I stood there and she glared at me.
Yeah,
for
she
2
looked at
hours.
you for a while.
Yeah,
She's like, "This place is dark."
yeah. It's all true.
Yeah. So I don't know how we got here, but
God help us.
yeah, I did musicals
We're
for a
here
long
now.
time, and then it was like the thing where it was like the classic suburb thing where I was the only kid who could do stuff, depressingly as that is. So they just made me do it every year.
Yeah.
Until I stopped doing it, and then I became the guy who's really high behind the soundboard, running the sound for all the shows. So musicals have been a part of my life for longer than I would care to admit.
Well,
So-
I'm really glad that we stumbled upon this because I feel like I would like to pursue this like maybe childhood trauma weirdness, and
Oh.
I could.
Did you guys know you were signing up for this today? Or did I just
I'll
drag
do
you?
mine. I'll do mine
therapy.
really
Okay.
quick because it's actually it's not similar, but it is.
Yeah.
So, my
Wait, we're talking little T trauma, not big T trauma.
little
right?
T.
Okay.
No. I mean, like, is a constant dosage of little T trauma like over years equal big T trauma?
It might be,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
that's-
So it's like lowercase italic T.
Yeah. So my dad got really into karaoke, like with the laser discs that were like 12-inch laser discs and
Sick.
stuff,
Yeah.
you know? And so we had that in our garage, and he would do weddings. And there was this restaurant. So I grew up in this really tiny town called Roslyn, 84 kids in my graduating class, you know, really small. And so there was this little restaurant bar called The Miners, and my dad would go do karaoke there and then became friends with him. And then he started doing these dinner shows. Where they would charge like a cover, and then they would make like a one big meal, and everybody would sit there, and then my dad would croon to them, but it would be karaoke. Not like he didn't have a band, he didn't play anything, he would do karaoke. And then he wanted to start this thing called kids karaoke on Sundays at the Miners. And guess whose kids did karaoke?
Yeah.
So I was forced to do karaoke because the old lady that always went to the Miners loved it. So I sang to the old lady and my parents and the people that worked there. And they made me do like Hank Williams Sr. songs and
Wow.
stuff. So I hated that.
Yeah.
I hate it. I do like to sing though.
Do you still do karaoke?
I love doing karaoke now,
Oh.
oddly enough. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's got to be on my terms, you know.
Yeah, I
I'm
feel
sure
you.
you like
Not
if
in
you
your father's
you know,
shadow, yeah.
Yeah. Not in my yeah. My dad wanted to his goal as a kid, and then into his 20s and probably still, he wanted to be a singing soccer player, like a professional soccer player who was also like a professional singer.
Wow.
And he coached a girls' soccer team and did kids karaoke. So he kind of succeeded.
succeeded.
Yeah.
He did it, yeah.
Abe?
I just released the AI-22 harmonic mixer.
There we go.
Variation.
Russ, did you grow up in Oregon or I thought
No,
California?
I grew up.
We didn't.
No,
No?
no, hell no.
East Coast.
Jersey, yeah.
Oh, Jersey,
yeah,
okay,
very
right on.
not California.
Yeah. Okay.
No
Right.
way. No. Make
What
that
part of Jersey?
blaringly obvious. Right near Newark Airport.
Okay.
The whole Sopranos intro was filmed right around the corner from my house.
Okay.
And my friend is in an episode of The Sopranos.
Oh, wow.
He got thrown down a flight of stairs and got acid poured on his feet.
Oh,
Yeah, so
It's a tough gig.
that was where I grew up.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were there
Yeah.
not last summer, but the summer before. Our friends live in Jersey.
Wow, I'm
in
sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Mahawly. It's Mount Holly, but you call it Mahawly.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then, do you say down the shore?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So what we figured out is
Yeah.
anyone of like north of like the Mahawly area
Yeah.
says down the shore, and then and they just call it the shore.
Yeah, well, the problem is, so this is actually like a contentious debate too about New Jersey. Is like there's people who think that central New Jersey exists, and it doesn't. There's just North Jersey, which is like where you want to be, and then the rest of the state.
Yeah.
So if you're like below that line, but you're not in definitively South Jersey, which is basically Kentucky, you like really defensively claim that Central New Jersey exists because you're
that makes
insecure
sense.
about the fact that you're in the
Totally.
shitty part of New Jersey.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, if you're North Jersey, then you stay down the shore, and if
It's like us saying we grew up in the west suburbs because that
Yeah.
sounds cooler than Beaverton and Aloha.
yeah, I wonder.
Sorry,
I mean,
did
you
I
know,
out you?
Whoa.
these
Sorry,
guys have
my
lived
bad.
here for both of you your whole life, right?
Me, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure they have a lot to say about Portland.
Shit,
Yeah.
no.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, wow.
Nothing?
I thought that was like a good segue. I was trying to set you guys up.
I'm trying to knock them down.
Oh yeah, well you guys are doing a great job.
I mean, it's like, how often have you taken advantage of the fact that there are strip clubs in a town called Beaverton?
Yeah.
I mean, that's gold right there. I feel like I don't even need to say anything else. Brandon, do you have any cool traumatic stories from your childhood?
Oh man.
Jesus.
Yeah, growing up as a goth in this suburban.
In the west suburbs.
Yeah.
Wait,
Wait, you were a goth?
Yeah, goth.
Yeah. Forever.
He used to be.
Wow. Still practicing goth.
Can you break down the different subcategories of goth? So like goth is the umbrella. What do we got? What's the taxonomy?
I think it was Ross actually who
Yeah, you're Frasier goth.
Yeah.
Frasier. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, like an
he's-
intellectual goth.
No, oh yeah, but like also like
wear
the
a
trench
button-up
coat
and-
and the gloves.
He also shares the politics of.
yeah,
guy who
yeah,
plays
yeah,
Frasier.
yeah.
Not Kelsey Grammer though.
Yeah, him.
No,
Because
yeah.
I think those are very different politics, if I remember.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Not a good dude.
Yeah, let's talk about politics.
I was waiting.
Yeah.
That's why I'm up
Now
here.
that we're on the subject, I really want to talk about. Yeah, let's go, Brandon. Let's talk about politics. Yeah.
Has anybody called you Dark Brandon yet?
Oh boy.
I feel like you're
Yes.
the original Dark Brandon.
I did last night.
Yeah.
Can someone go steal something from my booth so I have an excuse to get out of here?
Jay, what was the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you in your life? Ooh. What's your deepest?
Nobody
darkest-
has time for this. No, I'm boring. I grew up on the west side. Pretty normal.
Yeah.
Nothing exciting.
Okay.
A lot of self-loathing. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all of
I
us.
guess the reason I really wanted to follow this thread is just kind of see like, where are these like common nodes that lead you to modular manufacturing? You know.
Being unemployable.
Big one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
that's a big one.
That's kind of how it works.
You got to be your own boss because it's just like.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do. Yeah, there's no jobs, so you have to make them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like adjacent, you know, with what I do. Like it's kind of the same. Like I'm a fine employee, but like if I don't like what I'm doing, I'm not there, you know.
Well, in this
What was
whole
the work you did before?
I was actually an electrician for a while, a low voltage electrician.
Okay.
I went through an apprenticeship, got my license, and now I teach night classes at the apprenticeship, so I don't have to
Dope.
do the construction shit anymore because I hated that. But I also was in academia for like 7 years. Thought I was going to be a professor, and
A professor in what?
biological anthropology with an emphasis on Eocene primate evolution. So like early primates. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I've
Brandon-
done some
Brandon
like
knows stuff about
paleontology and stuff.
he can do a time step though.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I have to use like every time I get the opportunity to say something like Australopithecines or like something like that. It's like I'm still paying the government a lot of money to be able to, and all I have is the ability to use some of these words sometimes that make people think I'm pretentious. And I know I sound pretentious.
No, you just sound
but I
smart.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
Same thing.
I think that's how I sound, but
Yeah.
some people are like, this fucking guy.
Yeah, well, fuck those people.
Well, it's like science is like a language. Like, what is it? I heard some factoid like.
You just said factoid. I love it. Yeah, I love
But
it.
yeah, like freshman biology major is going to learn more new words than a language if you're taking a language course.
That makes
Like,
sense.
It's a whole
Yeah.
sort of sphere of knowledge with its own lexicon. So
It's funny that you say that because my intro to plant biology, which was now this has got to be like 15 years ago, the only thing that really sticks in my head from that is the word totipotency, which is great. Do you guys know what that means?
No.
So you know how some plants you can take a clipping and just stick that clipping right in the ground and
Yeah.
it'll grow? That is that characteristic of being totipotent. In my right hand, my wife is a horticulturalist, so she knows more about this
Cool.
stuff than me. So yeah, that's more.
Well, circling back to your question, if I may, I think we all ended up here because we're probably all hardcore DIYers. I know, as long as I've known Ross, we've talked about, hacking together cigar box, square wave synths and crap like from young times, So, I mean, Eurorack has matured incredibly over the last however long, but, at the core of it, I think we're all we made shit in our basements, and eventually we ended up finding a way to sort of make money on that, sort of
a little bit,
I think that's a pleasant way of saying it. I think I'm more in agreement with Abe here, because it's like I can't work for anyone because I'm a shit employee. I also can't retain employees because I'm a shit boss. So I am kind of limping along here. So yeah, I don't think like here's an example, right? So like I used to work in food service, and one time a guy, this was in Georgia, so I went to school in Georgia, and one time a guy ordered this breakfast called the lamppost breakfast, which is like all the shit. So it's like bacon and sausage and cheese grits and toast and like 4 eggs and sausage gravy. It's like the South, right?
Okay, yeah.
And the guy was like, he's like, can I get the lamppost breakfast, but can you just mix it all together and put it in one big bowl? And I thought, because I'm from Jersey, that he was being sarcastic and was joking. And I looked him straight in the face and I said to him, because I thought we had like a comedic rapport. I was like, yeah, you want me to put it on the floor so you can eat it like a fucking dog too? And he looked me right in the eyes, and without a single, like without skipping a beat, just totally stone cold, he was just like, I'd like to speak to the manager. So my track record,
I mean, maybe you did have a comedic rapport, but you really jumped into the deep end. You went like
I went for
D.
the jugular. I can't read people. Maybe I'm on the spectrum. I don't know.
I lost 2 jobs from jumping full trays of drinks into people's laps.
Oh.
Not one, but twice.
Damn.
So I get it.
Yeah. But you were also a back of house dude.
That's why I was a back of house dude.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I wasn't allowed out front anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So it's like, I don't know. It's like, Abe, like, what else would you do if not this? Like, what?
Oh, I have like a backup list of like alternate businesses.
Okay.
If and when this goes down the tubes.
Where's
Are
the
they
fun
all
in that?
entrepreneur, or are they all like you working for other people, or?
No, they're all a boss. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I used to be employable before this.
Right.
Now you've tasted
And now
tasted the other side, and you can't.
It's
go
over.
Yeah.
I woke up to an alarm for the first time in weeks today.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
No, waking up to, I think to sleep till you want to sleep until you wake up is one of the most important things a person can have in their life, and it will change everything, I think. My wife and I both used to have to wake up at like 4 a.m. because we'd have 6 a.m. starts. And in the winter, leaving when it's dark, coming home when it's dark, it gets real, especially in the Northwest.
Were you guys building 3 bodies? Because that's it's kind of my life right now.
Yeah. Well, I used one of those 3 bodies last night.
Awesome.
And it was.
Did it work?
Great. It's
Sweet.
a fantastic, very fun oscillator.
Not that they don't work, for the record.
Right.
They do. They really do.
Well, so what I loved about it is, and I was actually kind of at first a little bummed about it. After I built the set, I was like, I'm using the 3 body as like my pretty sounding voice in this, because it does that very well. But actually during like sound check, I discovered like, oh, that's how you do the thing that they were showing me, but I forgot how to do. And so I got to implement that in the set.
That's
like,
why you recorded it and made all these people listen to it.
Yeah, wait. I haven't made anybody listen to it yet, but I did record it. I will make people listen
You
to it.
did. You put it on your podcast.
No.
Eric and I?
Oh, no,
sounded like
I'm talking
jackasses?
my set last night.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I could have
I thought you were talking about the
referenced that.
tutorial that you were like, I can't remember. It's like, you recorded it. It was like an hour long.
Well, yeah, but then I'd have to like do work.
Yeah.
Again,
Fair enough.
I'm a bad employee. Unless it's like, I'm good at doing my own podcast, kind of.
No, it's good. It's a good podcast.
Well,
It's tight.
thank you. I think the show itself is pretty good, but it's like the scheduling, replying to emails.
Well, hey,
and all that
didn't you
shit.
actually just recently? I saw online that you got some flack from a hater.
Oh yeah, I gotta.
I'd like you to pull
loved
that
it.
out. I really loved that.
So
it made me smile.
Actually, I shared it, and then after I shared it, I
Wait,
realized.
hold on. Did you have that in your pocket with that goofy thing stuck on it?
I mean, this goes in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I hated
like,
these.
what the-
I thought these were so dumb, but
Okay.
my wife had one, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that actually looks pretty good. And
Uh-huh.
it's a wallet.
Okay.
But yeah, so
You see my confusion, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, those are tiny little shorts. Where the hell did that come from?
I've got my,
It's
you know,
the
my
it's the
storage.
podcast.
Don't get me started.
The podcast pocket.
So when I posted this, I like after it was posted, I was like, oh, people are gonna like give me compliments and be like, oh no, it's great. And I was like, I don't want to. That's not why I posted. I am genuinely just endlessly fascinated by the way some people handle the anonymity of the internet, and just like the fucking
That's one way to put it.
insanity. Yeah, just like how insane people are, and they just like, you know, I think, and you probably get this all the time in what you do, but like, you don't get talked to as if you were a person. They're talking to your thing as if it is some like non-personal entity. But yeah, I just thought this was hilarious. So it says, good guest, bad host. Not really interested in hearing the same stories about the host's past with guitar pedals when we could be hearing more from the artist. Tim constantly shifts the discussion back on himself with plenty of ums and really detracts from what could be a great podcast. This is the best part right here. It's unfortunate that this is the host that this niche is stuck with,
It's true.
as he is now unfortunately entrenched in the quote-unquote community, not so much because of talent or for being a good host, but simply because he is the loud voice in a small space.
Sounds like this person needs to. This
Yeah.
person
Give it up,
needs to start a
everybody.
podcast.
Come on.
Amazing. That is
Yeah.
like, I mean, I want to talk to this person. Like, I really want it, like, just to see what, but not like.
It was
Yeah,
me.
now is your moment.
That would be. I think that would be.
Plot twist.
That would be better.
Yeah,
I
it wasn't.
I don't
It
know.
wasn't.
I don't think that would be better. But if there was like an alternate thing, I would hope
Yeah.
it was you who did it.
Well, at the risk of sounding insanely narcissistic and vain, I compiled for a really long time. I got a lot of shit reviews and a lot of shit emails for a long time. I still do. But I compiled all of them because I wanted to make a limited edition Moffenzeef shower curtain, which was just a tessellation of all of the horrible things people
I
have
think
said
that's
about
a really
me.
good idea.
I'm going to do it
Yeah, I
now.
think
I'm going to
you
do it
should.
next week.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about just putting that whole review on a shirt.
You should do
and
that.
just have a white
Definitely.
shirt with
Yeah.
that whole thing. I love
Yeah.
the like constructive criticism of like, will you do a different show and just find a different host?
Yeah, well, yeah, the constructive criticism was like, hey, maybe you should try killing yourself. You know, it's like, maybe you should just like really just throw in the towel. You suck.
Have you thought about like what you're actually like providing and
Yeah.
like, you know?
So what was
giving to
your initial emotion when you read that?
when I read honestly flabbergasted joy.
Yeah. That's
Like
a good-
there's not because I was talking with my wife Hannah about this. It is so cartoonish that there's not a part of me that feels bad about it. You know, like also like, you know, that shows you're doing something right. When people start talking shit about you on the internet as if you're not a person, that means like you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Or you're a woman.
So Trump,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, are you kidding
What?
about Trump?
Yeah. I mean, that fucking election was stolen, you guys.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Just kidding.
Hey, we're all friends here, right? We can speak our real thoughts, right, everybody?
What else do you guys want to talk about? So what's your deal?
Politics?
Yeah.
Deal?
So what's your deal? Yeah.
10% off at our booth
Oh,
today.
really? 10% off. All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Today only though, so sorry, podcast listeners.
Okay.
They're
Do
already
you guys
on this
have like anything like new you would like to share, or anything that we could look forward to, or?
Well, we released our 3-body module, but you can't buy it because we're out of them.
Oh, nice.
Well, that's kind of a good problem to have.
It isn't.
Right.
That's been my whole morning has been like, this thing is great. And people are like, yes, it is. I'm like, that's cool, but you cannot have it because we don't have any. But soon. We will soon.
So I really didn't want to get into the supply chain chat, but
Yeah,
is
no,
it
God.
because of that? Or?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Chip shortage stuff is the crux of it, but you know,
Yeah.
our launch was small. They all sold. Blah,
Okay.
blah, blah. So
All right.
more coming, but it's been positive. People are into it, so
Yeah,
we're
it's
into
it's
it.
really cool. I really like it.
Excellent module. I have a thing that I came out with like 2 weeks ago called the Rattler.
The Rattler. Okay.
Yeah, the RATTLAH. It's a shakeable passive mute. So you just plug something into it and shake it, and it shuts the signal on and off. It's not that exciting, but I have one left at my booth. And I actually just opened like 3 days ago, mostly because of Brandon, actually. We were hanging out at KnobCon, and he was like, you should make more dial-up modules.
Yes.
So I decided, like, I kind of discontinued my Eurorack line a while ago for a variety of reasons, and I decided on a whim to make 50 more dial-up modules in black because people really liked it, and Brandon thought it was cool.
Are you selling them all in one big system? You can only
No,
get a dial
not this
System
time.
dial-up.
But I do. So people are asking me like, why don't you make Eurorack anymore? So it's like I am making 50 more modules. So if anyone listening to this wants a dial-up module,
Why aren't you making
Yeah, I was going to say,
Eurorack
can
anymore,
we
Ross?
talk about? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean the shortest explanation of it is that there wasn't enough demand to sustain production, and it's like I made a lot of different modules, and they were all really strange. And if there was demand, it was so minimal that I personally couldn't afford shelling out the cash to make 100 or 50 of something and have them sitting on a shelf for an indefinite amount of time.
Right.
A lot of it had to do with cash flow, and you can't really build a business around dial-up modem 4 HP modules that cost $129 that sell once every 4 months.
Well, those demand problems are getting trickier, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's really hard to go, yes, I'm going to make 100 of these when the chips, if you want to get them,
That's-
if you can get them.
yeah, it's like there's
there's a scale of pricing.
There,
So if
yeah,
you're
there's an
buying a short
economy of
amount,
scale.
it's,
Like that's the thing that people don't realize with a lot of this stuff. Is like there's an economy of scale where it's like if you're doing small scale runs and you're building them by hand, let's say, and you can be the type of person to sell something that's like really high quality, you're gonna have to charge a lot of money for it, right? Because it's like you can only make so many of them. But then you get into this weird middle ground where you're like between one man kind of like artisan thing and like small scale manufacturing with like employees. And until you get to that weird middle ground where like you can afford to have 2 or 3 people on staff and you're moving a few hundred pieces, you're kind of in this stuck kind of scale where it's like you can't really scale up. It's not really in your benefit. And if you do, you're out a bunch of cash. Like I don't have this like trust fund baby money. I'm not taking out like huge loans here. It's like rolling the cash forward. So it's like I've had to like constantly ebb and flow based on demand. And I had a few products that were kind of popular, but those are still in quantities of like under 500 pieces for most of those things. Mm-hmm. So it's like a constant juggling thing. Like the dial-up module, I only made 100 of them originally, and it took me like 4 years to sell them because like nobody gives a shit about my Eurorack modules. So it's like it was really hard because it's like I really cared about it and I put a lot of time into it, but like people didn't really give a shit about it. So it's really hard to like build enough to justify it. So
Yeah.
this run of 50, it's really not that expensive to make, and people want it. So
Right.
I've already
This is
kind of paid for the run.
Yeah, this is the bummer. I think we're going to see, if we're talking bigger picture in this industry, is you're seeing, there's a couple big players that have they're bowing out because this is hard enough at their scale.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're going to see a lot of smaller companies that, like you said, are like at that
I think
just
it's-
about to bust over style.
Yeah.
They're just not going to be able to get parts. It's not even
It's true.
It's
hard to feed the team, and it's like
Yeah,
if you're a
right.
one-person show, you can afford to scale back because it's just
Right.
you.
Yeah, it's nimble.
Right,
It's
right,
like,
right.
but when you're in that weird middle ground, it's really difficult. So
Yeah.
it's a delicate. You're kind of. I mean, I'm sure everyone on this panel agrees that you're kind of always walking on a tightrope. You know, unless
like you're
I
one
juggle.
run away from total collapse
Yeah.
because like you don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I
everything
think
has
that's
to work.
common
Yeah.
with anybody going into any sort of like, whether it's the arts, like if you're like a professional musician or in, not like superstar, but acting or like podcasting, like there is like this, like, this could all just stop like tomorrow,
Yeah.
Like, but that actually, Ross, when
That'd
you
be
were
a very
talking
funny
about,
stopping point.
Yeah.
And with that,
Yeah, but then it would be a half hour short. We're halfway there, guys.
Oh, this is nothing.
yeah.
Man, just get me started to talk about
you only
homemade
have to
pasta.
listen
It's like,
to
fuck,
this
man.
much again. We're almost there.
Yeah, this is nothing.
Well, what you were just saying, Ross, actually, I've talked to some other manufacturers about this, but because it is getting bigger, but it's like a sub niche of a sub niche, and it's, there's like an element of like, even though it's electronic music, there's like a punk rock kind of like ethos in it of like, you know, do your own thing, DIY,
Sure.
and be your own boss and make what you want to make. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Ross, but you seem like somebody, and I think this is the case with most people I've talked to in the industry, but I'd like to hear this from all of you guys.
Sure.
Like, there's got to be some push and pull between like, well, I want to do this,
No, not
but
for me.
like,
Yeah.
this would if I could make something that like would sell better, it's more simple or something, but like I don't think
So
anybody's.
I'm mentally ill, and I am not like any of the people on this panel, in the sense that my ethos from day one has always been: if you have an idea at all, do not waste a single second thinking about the quality of the idea. Execute it all the way through to shipping it, and deal with the emotional ramifications of that 3.5 years from now, and then start going to therapy. So I have made every idea I've ever had, and all of them, for the most part, have sold horribly, except 1 or 2 of them.
Well,
so I'm at
that
like
is the
net
dial-up.
0. So it's like, that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. But I come from that standpoint because I have like an art background, and I have always believed that, and maybe this will inspire you guys, I don't know, but I have believed that criticism and creation are 2 isolated processes. And when the creator starts to become the critic, you start to hinder whatever thing you did. Because the truth of the matter is, right, if we want to get meta here, the quality of a piece of work that you do is not, and we know this throughout art history, is not dictated on how well it did financially or how successful or how popular it was, right? So it's like a lot of the people that I've admired over the years either didn't receive recognition until they died, or didn't receive recognition at all, or didn't receive recognition until their later years. And that's obviously not the blueprint for all creative people, but I think if you're interested in engaging with this in a creative process and not as much a entrepreneurial and business process, because this is the spectrum here, right? There's like people who are actually running businesses here. But if you're like thinking of this as like an artisan creator or whatever, the second you start to criticize your work in the process of its creation, I think you start to shoot yourself in the foot, because you're starting to allow your insecurities and external critique of what you do to be more important than your own reason for doing something, right?
Yeah, you're giving me therapy right now, because
Tight.
I philosophically am coming from exactly everything you just said,
Yeah.
but I am still learning how to like integrate that or do that.
It's
you know,
you know, so this all comes back to like authenticity, right? So it's like, it would be inauthentic for me to sit here and be like, I'm making a great thing, because first and foremost, I'm incapable of that. And secondly, it's like, that's not in line with any of the things, like any of the reasons I started the company and any of the reasons I do anything, right? So it's like, the more in touch you can be with your actual authentic reason for doing something, you'll yield whatever benefits are intrinsic to that practice through doing that. You know,
Well, it's not
so
your
it's like,
responsibility to decide if something's great or not.
no, but it is your responsibility to pay your fucking rent, right? So it's like, that's like a whole issue tied up in this.
There's probably a lot of muskrat owners out there. They're like, I couldn't do what I do without this. You'll
Yeah,
never know.
I mean,
because
it's
they
like
may
the
not tell
module
you,
I've been
but-
thinking about the whole time. I'm like, Muskrat is a fucking awesome.
I appreciate it. I mean, it's like, I'm not sitting here. It's like, my objective in doing all of this had nothing to do with like making the most number of units or whatever. It was like, I wanted to make things that had this kind of thing, this philosophical and aesthetic execution that did a thing. And for me, it was like always the headspace of like, well, if I can break even and like make a little bit of money, that'll be great. But that's not the motivation for doing these things. And it's like, I feel like personally, when your motivation starts to be driven by those things, it manifests itself in the object itself. It's like people can smell insincerity coming off of you. It's like,
let me just interrupt. This episode is brought to you by Instacart.
yeah, that's actually a great thing to bring up, right? Because it's like, on the subject of like podcast people and influencer people, like, I understand it's like a business and everything, but it's like, there are people who I love, like for instance, like DivKid, right? Like DivKid is like an OG. Like DivKid is an insanely talented human being. He's one of the nicest people I have ever met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, of all of the people in the community, he's genuinely interested in what he's talking about.
Smart as a whip.
And he's pumped.
He's pumped,
Like,
and he's
it doesn't matter what the thing is. He is pumped about it.
Yeah, and he's like living his truest form of himself, and it's
it
like
comes through in his work.
Yeah.
it comes through,
100%,
and as a result, it's like success or whatever you want to call that or define that as. Like, I'm using that in the most abstract term. It's like that attracts itself to those things. It's like that notion of like attract, not chase. You know?
Yeah, and I think
so. It's
like I that's something that like I learned later, and like it's kind of like, you know, there are these, like I said, I'm, like philosophically I'm with you. That's in my prefrontal cortex. That's in my thinking about it. But then like my limbic system takes over or whatever, and it's like and that's something I like. I do want to make money off of the podcast and music and everything.
You're going to need better guests.
Yeah, you need to start there.
For the sole purpose that I can just not have to have a job with a boss.
Right.
You know, like, and luckily I've maneuvered my way where I do have a boss, but he's my friend, and it's really great.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is, like, something I think about a lot. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but Philip Glass, as he was writing Einstein on the Beach, like, peak Philip Glass was still working as a plumber in New York, because he had this idea of like, if I can separate how I make a living from my work, then I'll never, like, it's like the streams won't cross. Like, it'll be easier for me to make money, and it'll be easier for me to be creative, which is like an interesting thing, because it's like I try to do that myself, because it's like I don't make enough money off of making synthesizers to sustain synthesizers. Like, no way. Like, I'm doing soldering work for Teensy. I do all the soldering for them, and I do other odd jobs and shit to pay the bills. But it's like that's something I think about a lot, because we have this notion of like, if you love something, you know, you should be able to make a living off of it, and it's like I don't know how true that is personally.
Yeah, I mean I struggle with that, but like the one thing, like, I just feel like we all got so duped into this whole like work thing.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you work, like the majority of your waking existence is spent doing something you don't want to fucking do.
You could just do drugs instead.
I mean, yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of all of the above.
Or both.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the real struggle here, I mean, with anything creative, is you've got to love that thing despite making money on it.
Oh, totally.
So, I mean, we're right in the middle of a product launch cycle. I can speak from direct, right this second experience. Like, it's hard not to be mad at that module sometimes, because it causes a little bit of grief, but at the same time, I get to spend time with people, like, with things like this, and people, I see their eyes get a little big. I'm like, snap. I kind of forget that, like, I'm not just making a Whopper for somebody walking through the door.
Exactly,
like,
or fucking pulling cable through a ceiling.
Even if it's just a little second of somebody being like, oh, like, you can tell it kind of gets their brain working. It
Yeah.
pulls you right back to, like, oh, right, this is why we're doing this. It's not the, like,
'cause it's a
barely
shared
paying
thing.
rent and extra jobs and la 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 la. It's like, right, we're making cool shit. Like, and that's a struggle for any small business. If you're a caterer or a podcast or whatever, it doesn't matter. You got to remember that you love the thing despite all the bullshit you do to get there, right? Like, because that bullshit's not fun. I mean, it's unending, but
like I've rarely even like questioned like how, like, do I like doing the podcast, and or how long am I gonna do this? Like, I'm almost 5 years in, and I'm still doing it every week, and it's
you're doing a good
but
job.
Are any of
man.
us in our
Like,
high school bands anymore? No, we're not, because you had that
exactly.
moment where you're like, this
Yeah.
just isn't fun
Exactly.
anymore for
And
some reason.
I'm sure
and you
there'll
move
be
on.
a time when
Yeah.
I'll be ready to move on, and hopefully I can sell the brand for a lot of money.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, dude, it's like, because
Another
like
great stopping point. We're flying by them.
I mean, it was like I said to you when I saw you in Seattle, like I re-listened to that Darwin episode, like after he passed recently, and it was like, those things, like being the guy who's archiving, because that's what you're doing, it's like that is very, very, very important. So it's like, aside from whatever, we're talking about, like success and everything, it's like the job of the archivist, it's like you're doing that. So it's like that comes with its own responsibility and its own merit to it.
I'm glad that you said that, because I do feel that, and I feel like that this, like, I think about, like, when, like, the thing that excites me the most about, like, the podcast as a whole is actually, like, people maybe listening to these episodes in 30 years and not giving a fuck who I am, but like, holy shit, Darwin Gross was on this show, and all, all these, and fucking Abe from Al Synthesis was on this one, and where was I going with that? But yeah, I was just telling my wife the other. I was just telling my wife the other day that, like,
Really?
I started this hoping to like boost my musical career presence or whatever. Also because I wanted to do this, but I was like, oh, it's an untapped market. And I wasn't expecting that, like, hands down, the most, like, valuable, the best part about doing this is just, like, all the fucking awesome people that have become good buddies with through it and finding a community. Or used to be.
Yeah.
Well, that's on you, buddy. That's on you, Abe.
So much for that.
You should see the review he wrote me. He was nice enough to keep it just in a private email, but if you thought the one I read earlier was bad, oh, man.
Well, I can say for the Eurorack community, that Euro gets thrown around a lot, but I've been working in electronics for 15 years and weaving my way through all that. Eurorack is definitely a place where people, they don't walk up to your table and be like, oh, an envelope, huh? Whatever, off they go.
Yeah.
There's none of that. People are like, oh, another envelope? Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are excited,
Right.
they're open to it. You know, there's more opportunity in this community than there is, like, I don't need another fuzz pedal. I have a fuzz pedal.
Well,
I built pedals for a long time, you can tell.
Yeah,
but, like, that world is very, it has a tendency to be reductive instead of additive. And I feel like that's something, maybe this is a synth community as a whole thing, the way it exists right now, but I feel like even events like this, like when we do this, I feel like I get a lot more, the questions make me think rather than making me like, fuck, can this guy go away? Which trade shows I've done in previous industries, that's how it goes. Is like you feel like you're getting grilled instead of being embraced. It's a very different vibe.
You don't get into this unless you're a fucking dweeb.
Yeah. There's that.
It's like,
There is
we're
that.
all
for sure.
dweebs.
Yeah.
Like,
true.
And there's like no like there's no like rock stars here. There are no rock stars. You're not gonna become like
no.
And I think just going into this world knowing that, like, I think a lot of people check like their ego at the door, maybe, hopefully, and
they're just excited to see other people that know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
and also enthusiastic. So. Well.
I mean, we still make up. Like you and I have talked about this. Like the space that we occupy is like the razor's edge of the synthesizer world. Not even the music technology world.
Although,
it's like nothing.
I've heard like it seems like I've heard that like guitars aren't selling as well, and bigger like Sweetwater and these big vintage King Audio and stuff. I feel like I hear like seeing these guys starting to post or list modular stuff and more synth stuff. Like, do you think as synth stuff gets more popular, I mean Eurorack's getting more popular, like do you think that there's going to be a bubble burst and
they've been talking about that ever since it started.
Perception, since Dofer,
it's perception.
Yeah,
you know, like
it's a genre thing.
Maybe that's a hype
did
curve
fixed
that has eclipsed, but
did fixed architecture synths just dry up and disappear? Like they've ebbed and flowed over the years, but it's not like people are just going to throw their Eurorack shit in the Willamette and move on with their lives.
I think it's safe to say. I think it's safe to say that as like a trend thing. I don't think hardware as a concept is on the decline. Would you guys agree with that? It's like I think we went through that whole thing of like, oh, laptops. I don't want to play with a laptop anymore. It's like that was like a conversation 10 years ago, and now people are just like in agreement of like, yeah, we like playing with physical things.
Well, and how many modules are little laptops without QWERTY stuck on them these days? Like digital and analog and all of that is it's so much closer related now compared to how it was even just a few years ago. Like, it was unthinkable to make digital modules. 3-4 years ago? Like, a couple people did it. Dave Rossum did it. Like, people that are really, like, truly skilled engineers could navigate it. But, you know.
Scott Yeager.
Yeah.
Emily. Yeah, and Scott put in the work, like, to make those things work the way that they do. So, you know, I think you're right. The divide between, like, laptop people and blah, like, we've joked about, joked about laptop on the spot and
I
stuff.
I feel like that conversation, the laptop conversation is, like, so 10 years ago, but I think, like, the digital versus analog conversation is now, like, over.
That's so old.
Like, come down to the
Schlappi's
booth.
proving that with FPGAs.
I was gonna say, come down and talk to me about digital versus analog. Like, our new product, that's the story.
Yeah, I think Schlappi, especially because he did a teardown online of like the actual, which I thought was one of the coolest things that a manufacturer's ever done.
Super good video.
Super good. He did a full teardown of why he chose to do an FPGA And the reason, like, I love Eric for this reason, because his like first thing is he's like, I chose to do this with an FPGA because I'm insane and this doesn't make any sense.
Does that stand for Field Programmable Array?
Shut up! You making fun of me?
No.
But
What an ass! You make fun of me in your house. Now you're making fun of me here.
No,
never again.
I'm just calling back to you.
We are
I
dead.
wasn't making fun of you then. I am now. But I also learned what it stood for by you not remembering, and then Eric told both of us.
Yeah.
So for anyone that's listening that cares about what we're talking about, there is there's a full engineering teardown that he did of the module that Jay is talking about, and the advantages and disadvantages of using this technology. And it's really awesome because it's like that video, like 10 years from now, it's like the same type of shit that like when like Dave Smith was talking about MIDI and trying to get people interested in MIDI, and it's like, yeah, there's Dave Smith talking about MIDI. It's like Schlappi did the thing with the FPGA that people have been talking about doing but didn't do, and he did it. And it's like now talking about it as like the advantages and disadvantages or whatever, it's like now that conversation can happen because Eric did it. So it's like that's the thing about all of this that's really cool, is it's like on that conversation about like passion and community and everything, it's like the maker world is like one other element of that, where it's like most of these people, unless you're a complete prick, are like so happy to share their intellectual property with you. Which is like something about this whole thing that's awesome, because it's like everyone is just collectively interested in doing cool shit. So Eric did that for this, and it's really, really dope. And yeah, I would think that for me was like a final nail in the coffin of like analog versus digital is like
not an argument.
Not an argument at all. The thing sounds awesome. It does the thing that analog is supposed to do. It has the benefits of digital production-wise. Like, Schlappi killed it with that.
I also think that video, if you're like having a hard time sleeping, I think you should put that on and listen to it, because Eric's voice, like, Eric is just one of the sweetest fucking people in the world, and it's like his very distinct, speaking voice is very sweet, and like I feel like that would just be like, and it's about FPGAs, so like it's not a real fucking page turner, or like so I feel like you could just be lulled to sleep by his dulcet tones.
I don't want to speak for Eric because he's not here, but he is definitely interested in that sort of educational component, like that new module. We're not here to talk about it, but he calls it a toolkit. Like it's yes, it's an oscillator. Yes, it's blah 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 blah. The point is, you should be able to sit down at this thing and learn something from it.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So you can look at the manual if you want. He rambles a bit on some very interesting things about FM and phase modulation and how they differ and why you may choose one over the other. It's kind of like reading through data sheets. Like even if you don't care about building gear, sometimes it's fun to pull up an op-amp data sheet and be like, oh, I play guitar. I understand this terminology, even if it doesn't. It's not applicable to your life any other way.
Right.
I feel like Eric does a really good job, and he has videos on the Schlappi Engineering YouTube channel about amplitude modulation and how to make percussion synthesis. And he's got these long dive, which he shot in our office. Because I think maybe that was something, he might have done some PCC stuff or something.
He did some sort of intro to synthesis.
Intro stuff. But I mean, those are years old. And like you're talking about, like there's a little bit of educational component that, yes, if you buy our modules, they will do those things. So what? Go download the 3-body manual from our website and read it. It's free. You might pick up something interesting.
Right.
Don't buy it. We don't care. Like, you may get something out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
and
that
he's very
educational-
motivated to like make sure. You see some modules or gear that you buy and you're just like, I have no idea. I sit down at the Hydra synth. I'm like, yeah, I understand the words on this. This makes no sense to me at all because it's so dense.
Yeah, I had that.
Eric is the backwards of that. He wants a knob for every function, and
that seems to be a common thread throughout the builders. And I feel like that was Abe's big thing starting out, was the educational aspect of it. And and after later, like I'm doing the video content and stuff, and our goal is not to like make business cards in the shape of videos. It's more of like, can we teach people stuff? So like once I get enough time, hopefully we want to just do like a modular concepts video series.
I mean, I can speak on behalf of everyone here without even asking. It's like all of us.
This is gonna go great.
No, I'm serious. Like all of us learned how to do the shit we did from that type of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally.
It's like everyone learned, like, and it's hilarious to me because it's like I meet people and they always like give me like the same speech of like, I don't know anything, I don't know how to solder, I don't know this, I don't know that, I just want to do it. And I'm like, you're talking to a fucking moron who still doesn't know how to do any of that.
Well,
it's like and everyone, for the most part, until you reach a certain status level, or maybe you do get an actual degree, but even Schlappi's not like that. Schlappi is an EE, and like he shares. It's like
I think isn't Eli from Mystic?
Yeah,
actually?
Eli's an
they're,
EE.
But they're like the few.
Well, they're the first ones to tell you that like you're not going to learn how to make a synthesizer at an EE degree. Like audio technology, like people don't realize this. It's like it's like skipped over. It's like 101 for like 2 minutes at the beginning of an EE thing, if that, because it's at such a low frequency range and it's such a dead. It's like not on the cutting edge of anything.
Right.
And the engineering you're doing isn't really. I mean, like, yes, there are precision elements of it where you need things to work linearly and all these like precision elements, but like at the end of the day, it's an aesthetic practice. So you can't really. It's like we can sit here and we can talk about discrepancies between transistors and topologies for different filter designs and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like, what does the thing sound like?
Right. Yeah, does it feel good?
Yeah, and it's like there's that Oberheim video that
Like,
Brandon and I love.
Did you cook a good burger with it? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what the spatula is.
Was it the
like,
SEM he was talking about with the filter where he was tweaking that one resistor value?
I think it was a SEM, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the SEM filter. Oberheim was like, oh, there's this one resistor value, and it had something to do with the resonance, where if the resonance is cranked too hot, it starts to distort, which is good, but then it distorts too much, and it's bad. So there's this like sweet spot, and he was like running all the numbers and everything, and he was like, I just have to sit here and just like manually swap out these resistors by hand, a little up, a little down. And he just like spent 2 or 3 days just changing this resistor value until it sounded the way he needed it to sound. And there's this interview with him where he's talking about it, and he's like, I could write transfer functions all day and try to explain this complex analog phenomenon, what's happening. Or I could just sit here and tell you that it sounds really good.
Yeah, right.
You know? And it's like, that's the beautiful thing about this, where it's like, you're on the cusp of all of these different, it's like art, design, tech.
Yeah, that's
you're like,
that. I think that's another thing that makes this like world of like modular like extra special, and I think is one of the many components of this like this community thing is like, I look at all your modules, and they are artistic expressions. Those are expressions of something that you have to say or want to see in the world, and that's the same. I feel like that's what a song is.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
And because most of y'all aren't EEs, I feel like you get weirder fucking. Like I feel like if you were an EE, you might maybe be constricted or confined and think that, okay, well, this is used for that, and I'm supposed to, if I want to make this type of thing, I need these components. But like, if you're like, I want to make something that does this, and then you just gotta fucking find the stuff, like, I think that's renegade.
Well, it's the same with any other art form, right? It's like the outsider always does the best thing in a lot of ways.
Because
you know?
you mentioned Schlappi and Eli being EEs,
but they're both freak
But
shows.
they make the weirdest fucking shit.
Well, I was gonna say like Eric. That's his. I don't know.
He's very academically minded.
He's been working on the 3-body module for 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's gone through a lot of iterations. Even within the last 6 months, while the boards were ordered, we knew everything was showing up, there was a lot of decisions being made that were like, how does this feel? We had many Zoom calls that were like, well, we could turn the DAC filtering up, we could do this, blah, 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 just endless circle. What seems better on paper, but it really came down to like, how does this thing feel when you plug stuff into it and it outputs something?
Like I said it on the last
tricky.
podcast where I played the thing, but like it's that what you just said is so apparent to me, like, because when he was showing me it, I was like, this sounds like a Schlappi set, but it's all one module.
Totally.
So he used to make those sounds that you hear in 3-body with his whole case, but he figured out how to distill that into this one thing that is very playable and wild results when you know,
and those
like,
oscillators could be anything. Truly, he could have coded them to do whatever anyone could dream up. There comes a point where you have to, as a creative person, as we've been talking about, you have to go, no, this is it.
Well,
it doesn't matter if something's better or cleaner.
Well, and then feature creep,
whatever.
like I could
put
10,000 more things on there, but like,
One thing I do want to interject though about both Schlappi and Eli, because I've had conversations with both of them about this. They were like artists and musicians first, and they both went into EE. Like, I'm going into EE because in both of their cases, because I want to design synthesizers.
Yeah.
And it's like,
didn't they both say that
that is
that didn't really serve them in that capacity? I mean,
well,
obviously, it helped them a
professionally,
little.
but like, I don't know other EEs that are like EEs, and then they're like, I'm gonna make synthesizers. Like if they do, it's gonna be like not a cool synthesizer.
For the most part,
Yeah.
I think the best designers are also musicians. But Dave
Yeah.
Rossum, he's not a musician.
Right.
He's
Dave
like
Rossum
God
is a
in my
G.
mind.
That dude is a G.
Ross
Yeah, but he
stuff is
understands
insane.
musicians.
He does.
You know,
Yeah.
that's,
And
I mean,
he has like a more of a scientific mind. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I guess
but
he's
also,
definitely
like,
an
you look at
exception.
his preambles in the data sheets for, like, the sound semiconductor chips.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot of very interesting sort of asides on a data sheet. It should just be math and outputs and, like, boring. You read those data sheets, it's like a fun journey through synth history a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, you're not going to get
Data
that
sheets
unless
are
you,
fun.
Unless
Yeah.
you understand. Well, I mean, they're fun for us, but like even people who don't give a shit about making anything. It's an interesting, if you're
Dave's
curious about the history of the
is
last
infectious.
last 40, 35 years of synthesis. Like, it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Well, a good place to end
Oh.
is we have like 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for any of us?
Questions from the audience?
No.
Don't
We
all speak
stunned
at
them into
once.
silence.
Excellent.
No one? Well, I got these glasses at a vintage shop the other day.
Woo!
I feel like I look like Jarvis Cocker, who maybe Jarvis Cocker and Zach Galifianakis had a baby.
Oh wow, yeah. I think that's accurate.
I'm feeling myself with these. I was gonna change into my shoes. I showed up in my Crocs and the glasses, and then Brandon was like, "This is a fucking look right here." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna roll with it."
You just look
color
normal
palette.
in Portland.
That's what we're spending our last 5 minutes on. It's a little fashion critique.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Who's this square who works in tech?"
Yes, sir. There we
The
go.
Crocs, babe. How do you feel about the whole look today?
Oh,
That's love right
For the
there.
second time, she's
so
not on the panel.
supportive.
She got a really cool button-up shirt that's from like the early '90s yesterday with penguins on it. Like
Yeah.
little cartoony penguins. Very cute.
Nice.
Very cool.
Looks like a good penguin.
Yeah, that's good. Penguins. None in the North Pole. Polar
Yeah.
bears. None in Antarctica.
Wow.
And yet
something
they are
new
always
every
in
day.
cartoons together.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. Look at that.
No questions.
Oh, you got a question. Brandon should answer this question.
And also a side question is like FPGA designs, like does that change that equation at all?
16.
I think Brandon should answer this one. Brandon's got a lot of experience with this one.
I got to repeat the question. How would I? Will someone else
It's given that there are so many makers in a small area, does that give us an opportunity to purchase as a larger collective and get larger price breaks as opposed to each of us being like, okay, I need 100, 200.
I think also there's an element of that. You're talking like there's some sort of middle ground, either CM or some type of fabrication thing that's in between large scale Eurorack and one guy, like a sort of gap that needs to be
filled. There's been a number of attempts of this over the years. The Moleco Dark Place Complex, a lot
WMD.
of folks, but it hasn't been a successful sustaining example of multiple independent companies coming together to work and share equipment and things like that.
I don't
know of any collectives.
I mean,
we're still
at all.
so
we
small.
share an office and some equipment.
Yeah. And like, I mean, one thing you're talking about Dark Place, like they're a contract manufacturer.
Yeah.
So me, Jay, show up with a module idea. I say, hey, friends, will you make this for me? And they're like, yes, it's going to cost you this much. And then you walk away and eventually you get modules.
Right.
That's a different relationship for a company like Dark Place that could then say, I'm making all 10 of these things and they all use this one part. I'm going to buy a bajillion of them. That's a very different relationship than like, hey, we use the same cap. Let's go order what we need together.
Right.
That I don't see happening,
There
not for
is-
any reason, but it just...
We share labor.
We share labor.
Yeah, we
there's
share
a
labor.
There's a lot of swapping of
people
hands,
bounce
but-
around. Like
Yeah.
one of the hardest things, I think all of us can agree with this. One of the hardest things to sustain in the production model of Eurorack is qualified hand assembly technicians.
Yeah, it's tricky.
People think soldering is this like bullshit blue collar job, and it's not at all. And it requires skill and experience. And like being part of people who have reputable people that they kind of pass around during runs. Because the other thing too is these runs are on and off. Like, I need you so much
Yeah, a
right
lot
now.
right
I need
now.
you,
Right.
and then it's like I don't have anything for you. So it's like there's
Yeah.
a few people who kind of bounce around. It's kind of similar to like, I guess, like front of house engineers for bands.
Yeah.
You know, those like in demand for a hot.
It's like when it's hot. when it
Tour
isn't.
season.
Yeah. It's like you tour and then you're not on tour. So it's like that kind of thing is
I
definitely
think, I
real.
mean, I'm not a company runner, but I've talked to all of you guys, and I work for a company now. I think that is just like, it could be as like simple as that is just something that no one has had time to fucking coordinate because
think that's a lot of
you're
it.
like
Yeah, we're all freaking
engineering
out in our own
your
way.
customer
Yeah.
service.
We've talked about
Right.
it
Yeah.
more, like
Yeah.
Like,
doing
Abe, I
kind
know,
of group
like-
buys and like going in on equipment, but like for it being realized, usually it doesn't
I
happen.
think any
because
of
it's
your
so
guys'
random.
extra bandwidth that you have once all the business aspect is done, you want to try to spend like designing or something. Like, Abe, I know you've told
Preferably.
me a bunch of times like design is like 10% of your job.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
nothing.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah.
It's like you spend as much time custodial
I was
as you
gonna say,
Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
fulfillment's got to be huge for you.
It's nothing. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, I got hit up today on Reverb for some reason. Like, I think they want to sell me an idea. And it's like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm all out of those.
Yeah, I only have a spreadsheet with 200 of them.
The word collaborative has become a trigger for me. Anytime I see the word collaborative, I'm like it's like the hair stands up on the back of my neck. It's just a
I
bad.
will say there is an example of this kind of working with what is it? Qubit. What's their CM company?
I don't remember.
But yeah, with the Daisy platform, and Andrew and his folks, they kind of have addressed this economy of scale and sharing resources, but it's more of an umbrella of management. But there's a lot of companies that are using that platform and that manufacturing and benefiting from those volumes.
Daisy.
What's that company?
Daisy's the
Electrosmith.
product. Electrosmith. Yeah,
So,
Electrosmith
well,
Daisy.
I would actually like to collaborate with you, the dear audience, in thanking these four lovely people for giving us their time today and sharing their.
Hey Tim, can we end this? This guy has this adorable kitten.
There is a very
that is just
adorable,
chilling.
chill fucking cat
Can we just
right
like
there.
bring this kitten front and center
Oh my
for the
God.
end of
What
this
is
video?
the kitty's name?
Alessandro.
Oh my God, like Cortini? Yeah.
What an appropriate.
Bring the cat up.
Like, can you bring this kitten to the? Obviously I want to
Yeah,
pet this
right.
kitten, but
Until next
can we
week.
like show? Oh my God! Like, can you show this
Oh my
gorgeous
God.
angel to the camera?
Yeah, please bring it out.
Oh my God!
Did
Thanks
we answer
again.
your question? I feel like we swam around a lot.
Let's
Did
give
you
a
get-
round of applause to Kevin and Jeff as well.
Woo!
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, man.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah.
This
Thank
was
you so
great.
much.
Yeah.
Very fun.
It was cool.